Hi everyone, I am Alexandra Bello with Flow Film Festival and Market Interview Series. Today I have Canedy Knowles with her short film Disconnected. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. And thank you so much for including me in this interview series.
Yes, you are actually the first interview for 2021, so we're very excited.
Fantastic.
Yes, and we're going to be putting them online very, very quickly. Like that, people can watch it directly from their phone and they can, get to know everyone that we are featuring this year. Every year we choose to feature about 20 filmmakers from all the submissions that we get, about 100 submissions minimum. And let's see what happens. I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself, your career. You told me that you've been in New York for many, many years and now in Georgia. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. Thanks. So my name is Canedy Knowles, and I started out primarily as an actor in the business, or at least that's how I was able to earn money and make a career, commercials and TV and film and live theater. And both my parents are in the business. So I grew up with two artists who my mom directed and my dad produced. And so I really sort of learned the business and learned behind the scenes from them. And I also, it was instilled in me that if you want to do art, you sometimes have to do it yourself. So I spent a lot of time in New York producing and directing off Broadway, off Broadway, so off Broadway that you don't have enough offs to make it to Broadway. And that's sort of how I learned to produce and to direct and put in the time to build the sets and do the lights. So while I was building an acting career, I also was producing and directing work that I believed in, independent films and independent theater. So that was growing up and building the career. And then we moved to Atlanta about a year and a half ago. And I joined forces with a company here called the Atlanta Workshop Players. So Disconnected was really created from the collaboration between myself and the production company that we have and the Atlanta Workshop Players. So that's really where Disconnected came from. And Atlanta Workshop Players is really great because they make space for all voices and all types of actors and artists and filmmakers to really have a space to share their vision. So that's sort of how I came. That's a very short version of my career. Yeah, so that's the short version. I can give you a longer version if you want.
That is awesome. You are very interesting, and I didn't know that you were in Broadway or off Broadway, and it's still very, very interesting. I love everything related to art, so I can totally relate to having a career and having a lifelong career involved with art and intertwined with art. I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about Disconnected because I was more interested in you first, but now tell me a little more detailed version of Disconnected, what it's about, and some of the challenges that you ran into when you were creating it, and some of the things that you love the most.
So Disconnected was created last year, almost exactly a year ago, in the height of the pandemic, with a group of 23 young people. We developed the script based on the stories of the kids. I had two kids with me during lockdown, my daughter and my niece, who were with us for those 4 months between sort of March and June when everything shut down. And I watched the two of them sort of go through the struggles that were different than my struggles in a lot of ways. And I was also teaching acting at the time, and we had moved everything online, and I was teaching acting to teens. And we would sit and talk before we started our acting work about what was going on with them. And I was just so drawn to their struggles and to the ways that they were trying to persevere and trying to connect with each other. So when Lynn Stallings with the Atlanta Workshop Players came to me and said, I'd like you to write and direct a short film based on the young people's experiences with COVID-19, it sort of flowed out of me, at least the rough draft of what I wanted to share, having really been immersed in these kids as they were in their experiences as they were going through it. So sort of wrote the first draft, and then we really said we need to do something that includes the Black Lives Matter movement, because that was such an integral part of that time and continues to be such an integral part of our experience here in America and should continue. And so I asked my dear friend Malachi to write that storyline for it. And so he was up in New York City, so everything was done remotely, and I gave him the script that I had and sort of what I thought was some ideas of how it could fit, and he and I had long conversations about how to make that story fit, because I do feel it's important to own the stories that are yours and then also understand when it's time for someone else to tell the story, and to make room for all the voices to have the space to share the stories as authentically as possible. So Malachi and I were working together, and he really wrote that entire storyline on his own. And then I worked with the kids, and I would have Zoom conversations and Zoom meetings with them where we dove deeper into these storylines to make sure that what I was writing was reflecting honestly what they were experiencing. So that was the writing process. And then the directing process was some different than anything I've ever done, because it was fully remote. I never met any of my cast in person. We did it all over Zoom. I had 3 DPs who would teach the kids how to do the lighting and set up the cameras in their house, because no one could go into these kids' houses to shoot with them. So on Zoom, they would do location scouting with the phones, and they would go to all these different places and find the perfect location. And then I would hop onto the Zoom and I would look at it and say, yes, that looks great. And so then the kids would shoot their parts and then send it back to us. So that really, I had to shift how I usually approach working with a group. I love collaboration. I direct a lot of improv, and when you're directing improv, you're in the moment, you're there together. And so to have to find that same collaborative feeling when we're just these boxes really required a different approach. So there was a lot of pre-production with my team. There were a lot of us on the team. We were very flexible in how we approached each part of it. And then I had to really trust, sort of give them the reins to create it the way that it was going to be created. And that, sure, I had a vision, but that vision included the authenticity of the moment, and that it was really dictated by the limitations of our experience. And I think that is hopefully reflected in the film, that the film shows something that is very true to what we were experiencing in that moment. So it's very different than I've ever had to work. I had, the third chapter of it, everyone is in person there, right? So you see the kids, they're outside. And so I had one DP and my assistant director who shared a household. So they would go to the kids' house. We'd schedule when they were going to be there. We would stay distant. They would stay distant and fully masked. And then I was on FaceTime, and they would call me, and I would be directing through the phone through my assistant director. So it was a wonderful experience of really leaning on everyone, this feeling of working as a team, like a real team. And when you're working on a film or you're working in theater, that's what's so beautiful about it, is you create these families. And this family was created in spite of, or perhaps because of, the fact that we had all of these limitations, we had these challenges. And we were all just so desperate to connect and to do anything artistic with each other. So that's sort of the challenges of this film. And I think what the final result is a real window into what these youth were going through and experiencing, and sort of how they tried to solve those problems of being disconnected from each other.
Very nice. That is an amazing rundown of what you went through, and I wanna congratulate you for making it happen during the pandemic, for not like sitting back and allowing the pandemic to make you unproductive. You actually made something happen, completed it, and had people come on board and display a truly collaborative effort like this one. So people can see how important um, it is in film, and even like you said, theater, to come together in collaboration to make things happen. So that's great leadership right there, and I enjoyed what I watched. Enjoyed the music and the editing, and I did notice the transition from, the camera, the selfie mode, to the regular narrative camera where the audience is watching.
Yeah.
So I did notice the change in that. And what I know that you said a lot about the challenges and how you overcame them, because you did overcome them. So congratulations on that. Your other work, how much different was this experience compared to your other work? Are you usually a short film filmmaker, or do you focus on documentaries? What can you tell me about your past projects?
My past projects have ranged from live theater. I was the director of touring company for Chicago City Limits, which is an off-Broadway show.
Okay.
I have produced lots of short films, and I directed for a long time with NBC Universal their PSAs with teens. So I would travel around the country and create PSAs with teens and teach them how to use the cameras and how to tell their story or get their message across. So a lot of the work that I've done is in film specifically, is with kids and with teens, and in helping them and teaching them how the technical aspects of using the cameras and the equipment, and how to tell a story, and also working with them on how to tell their story. So how do I help make the space for them to share what they're going through? So a lot of my work is in the social justice, creating works that reflect issues that are important to whatever the community is that I am in. So sometimes that's using film to do it, and sometimes that is using theater to create those works of art. And most of the time I do work in person. As I said, I'm very hands-on, very collaborative. I just shot another short film that we wrapped 4 weeks ago, and it was it was an improv short film comedy with kids, again, with teens. And that one was all of us together creating and discovering it as we went. I mean, we had a script, and I knew what the beats were and what I wanted to get, but the kids were able to ad lib within that. We discovered things together. And so when I work, I like to work very collaboratively, very much in the moment, allowing whatever's coming up to influence what ultimately happens, with me as sort of the guide of that, with the vision, right? You got to have a director who has an overall vision or a tone, but within that have that flexibility. So Disconnected required me to find a different way to be collaborative. And I kept saying, like, to do it on Zoom, it's like, Zoom, it's just not the same. And so we really had to push through that to make it the same, and to find a team that was willing to work within that, to work with that flexibility, to be able to pivot from the sort of traditional roles into something totally different. So my 3 DPs were doing things that they never do, like get on with a bunch of kids and walk through their house and say, ooh, that looks like the shot that Canedy, showed me. And let's go with that. And where are your lights? And okay, what sound do we have? so that they were pivoting and working with my film composer, the brilliant George S. Clinton out in LA. I don't know if I would have been able to do it with him had we not had the pandemic, because he is in LA and he works all the time. And so when I sent it to him, he had some time because he wasn't working as much because Hollywood had shut down. So there were challenges that were presented by working remotely. And then there were also opportunities that opened up that wouldn't have been there had we not all been sort of stuck in place. The same is true with the rap song at the end, All Lives Matter. Hassan El Jendi and I reconnected during the pandemic through City Kids, which is a group that we both had been a part of for years. And he played it one night when we were all sort of just hanging out in a Zoom room. And I had been working on the film, and I went, oh my gosh, that is the perfect song to end this movie. Can I use it, please? And also because no one was doing anything, he was like, yes, absolutely. I mean, everyone was so starved to do work, to be creative, as you said, like during the pandemic, to find those ways to stay artistic, to stay alive in our storytelling, that they were willing to give me these amazing, give me their talent and share their talent with me for this. So the challenge also became really the gift in a lot of ways, that we created a different type of community because we were on Zoom.
That's very good. I think that you were already getting trained without knowing to be able to direct something like this. Because I did
Yeah.
see a background on editorials or PSAs reflected in this work. I was able to catch that. Yes. So you were, you were training yourself through NBC and your work directing things for NBC, and it paid off eventually when the time was right. So that's very important. And also, one thing that people need to understand is that we are supposed to be connected, because we just exchange energy, we exchange creative input, and we come together and bring some good things to the table. So I'm very happy that you guys were able to create this. It was entertaining to watch. People are going to enjoy it. It's definitely going to be we don't know the schedule yet, but when we do, we will announce it, and we will update all the interviews with their respective times, let's say. We are happy to have you in the festival, and we are happy that you were able to submit this short film with a reason and a what do you call it, and social justice behind it, and a message. So it's important that we are able to entertain, but also reflect what society is going through, because you're supposed to be, as a filmmaker and a creator, a mirror of what's happening, and kind of like criticize what's happening and provide solution, or provide some sort of soothing reality to people. So I'm excited to be talking to you, and pleasure meeting you. I wanted you to tell me one last answer on your end before we say goodbye. I want you to tell me why you love what you do, and what type of advice you have for people living in a virtual world now.
I love what I do because it is the joy I get when I'm creating, when I'm working with other people, is unlike anything else, maybe except for being a mother, right? Like those two things sort of are there, both creative journeys, right? With challenges and surprises. And I love what I do because of who I get to meet and who I connect with, and the stories I discover and the stories I get to tell. And as a performer, I've done a lot of comedy, and I love making people laugh. I love bringing joy into their life. And as a storyteller, as you said, it's important to hold up that mirror in whatever way seems right at the moment, and to be able to do that with the talent that I have, which is as a creative. And I think there are people who show that in many different ways, show a reflection of society. And I get to do that as an artist. I get to do that by telling a story, by performing a character, by writing a story and shining a light on something, on an issue or on a person or a situation that needs reflection, that asks for our attention. So I love what I do for that. And then I love what I do because I work so much with kids and with young people. And they inspire me and I inspire hopefully also them
Yeah.
in how we move through this world. And if I can give them a moment of inspiration, a moment of confidence that their voice matters and that what is unique about them is important for this world and should be pursued and shown and shared in whatever way they can and want to share that, that gives me tremendous love and joy. So I love what I do because I also have, I've been teaching now for many, many, many years. And I have kids who I taught who are now successful actors or screenwriters or filmmakers. And so to watch them grow and know that I had a little piece of that I was able to help in some way to plant the seed or make the soil fertile for them to really grow and blossom. I love that part of it. My advice for people in a virtual world of how to connect.
And create,
It's
how to
tricky
connect and create.
and create. Oh, well, I think that what Randy Mansauer, one of my DPs, always said is that the limitations dictate the aesthetics, and that we, instead of trying to push against the limitations that are given, to lean into those, to lean into what it is that you have and to find the way to tell the story that way. And that could be because we're virtual, but that could also be because you don't have access to the top-notch technology or equipment, right? That you find a story that is compelling to you, that you want to tell, and you find the way to tell that story. And that it may not be the most beautiful, it may not be Spielberg, but it's gonna be right for that story. And if you stay true to how that story needs to be told and embrace the limitations not as challenges but as gifts, then I think that we're able to push past or rise above or even include that to make something that's profound and beautiful and resonates with people. And that's what we found with Disconnected, that it really was, yeah, it's, you have to know how to tell a story, you have to know how to you have to understand the technical aspects, and then you really can lean into whatever it is you have to create what it is that you want to share. Also, I mean, practically, you want a team that is on board to do it virtually, and it's going to take longer than you thought it would, just because you have to edit and you can't be in the room with everybody, so everything takes longer. The pre-production you're required to do a lot more pre-production to be ready for everything that could occur. And then it's just being creative, which I feel like brings out the best stories anyway. Being creative, being in the moment, taking what you have and using that is what makes it best. So
Very
I
good.
hope did that answer the question?
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us and with the audience. And thank you for opening your heart about this project and about your past and your career and your likes and, hopes for everything. I am,
Well, thank you.
honored to have interviewed you, and it is a pleasure meeting you. And I hope to see you at the film festival, either virtually or in person. We had a virtual film festival last year. It was something that I had never done before, that I have never been part of before. And it was just like that. We were all using Zoom for everything, all the speeches or all the talks, the workshops, everything was just being shared online, the watching experience, all of it. We were even networking on a virtual platform. Like we would go into an island and pick an avatar. It was very interesting.
Oh,
Definitely
cool. That
surreal.
sounds really, I
Yeah,
feel like everyone just got really flexible in how we continue to stay connected. And that's, it's really inspiring that we are able to do that even in this virtual space,
correct.
and that we're able to connect. And, in some ways it has limited us, and in other ways, I feel like it's opened up the world a bit, and that I
Yeah,
can meet with you here in this space. I'd
yeah,
rather be in person,
yeah.
but we can still do it.
Yeah, we can still do it, and definitely across towns and overseas. We can definitely continue with the networking and the learning experience and the growing, and we can open it up to our own neighborhoods to start interacting in person. A lot of people I feel like in the US, a lot of people don't go out in their neighborhoods and hang out, and they just want to hang out in person with people. They drive so many miles and long distances to see people. But now with the Zoom experiences, we can see the people that are far online, and we can have more time to ourselves to hang out with the people that are right next to us, like our neighborhoods or somebody around town. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting what's going to happen. It's whatever we choose to make out of it. And I invite
Yeah.
everyone to come to the festival and watch Kennedy's short film, Disconnected. And also we are going to have Q&As available for certain filmmakers that we pick. And it's going to be very interesting. Just like these interviews, we are able to meet each other. You're in Atlanta, I'm here in Florida. And, it's a connection that I am happy to have made. And I'm sure that it's a connection that you're happy to have made. And, you know,
Absolutely. I'm
yes,
very honored. I'm honored to be a part of this festival, and I so believe in your message and your mission. And it really is an honor and a privilege to be included in this. And thank you so much for taking the time to find out about Disconnected.
yeah, thank you for sharing your time with us. And everyone, remember that you can always go online and rewatch this. We're going to have it online for as long as online exists for the interview. So again, I am Alexandra Bello from Flow Film Festival and Market. And this is an interview series that we're doing to feature 20 filmmakers this year, 2021, from the submissions that we have received. Today, you just watched, because that means if you're here, you're at the end of the interview. You just watched Canedy Knowles, and her short film was Disconnected. Thank you so much, Canedy, for coming on board.
You're very welcome. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the film.
Thank you.